14 feet of storm surge. Chris CUOMO picks up our coverage from inside the storm.
All right, Chris CUOMO here. Thank you for joining NewsNation. Hurricane Milton is going to be having its effect on landfall on our watch. This has been a sneaky storm. Okay, we have it covered as best we can. Nexstar, NewsNation, using its resources. We have people all up and down the coast at all the pivotal areas. Now, this has been a sneaky storm. Why? Because it gathered energy very quickly. It is a small and concentrated storm. Then the wind field started to expand, and that's what we're worried about with this, because remember, so many of the areas that are getting hit on the West Coast right now are already compromised because of Hurricane Helene just 2 weeks ago. So you have to take that into consideration. What does it mean? Well, Florida already has a very high water table, right? And it doesn't have a lot of elevation above sea level. You put those two together, it gets easily saturated and it's hard to get away. Now, the story of this storm right now, as it starts to come to bear, here in Tampa Bay, that's where I am, and I'm up tucked into the interior of the storm because I got to stay on TV for 2 hours. So I can't be, hanging out, grabbing a stop sign for your amusement. I have to be able to conduct things and make sure that we can get guests in and out, and we have other people who are much deeper into the suck than I am. But you could just look over my shoulder right now, and you'll see we're getting gusts well over 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. We're in tropical storm range. It will become hurricane force gusts. That means occasional, not sustained. Big difference on topography, on trees and structures, especially those that are already compromised. Now, the leading edge of a hurricane, let's say the northeastern part of it as it is approaching here, is usually very wet. Not here. And yet we've seen a lot and now increasing flooding. Now, flooding does not mean storm surge. That is only just beginning on our watch. So why is it flooding? High tide goes until about 2 o'clock a.m. local time here. That means you have hours until you have high tide. It is a waxing crescent moon. What does that mean? Well, that is approaching the full moon phase, but you're not there yet. So this isn't one of the stronger moon tides, that spring tide effect you talk about. But you're already getting flooding. You'll see it with people all over TV. You're going to see it with our people here tonight. What does that tell you? It means that it's a vulnerable area. And now comes the storm surge, different than flooding. Why? Storm surge is about displacement of a volume of water, meaning it comes like a wall because of low pressure and that turbine effect of the hurricane. And what's happening now as it approaches landfall here just south of us, about 15, 20 miles, they've had sustained wind gusts at the airport 15 miles away of 90 miles an hour, okay? So when it comes, we're going to have that western edge with this hurricane. The western edge, the western part. So what's going to hit us after after the first part, after the eye goes across, then you have this wind field that is expanded. Then you're going to get into that southwestern edge. That's the wet edge. Now, here's the problem with that. You're going to have so much wind effect that is concentrated in this storm by that time that it's going to be a very powerful 1-2 punch. That's why they wanted to evacuate. We are told most of the shelters here in the Tampa area are full. Now, the estimates are coming down. This is one of the worst data points in storm management. Why? Because when people see it's not a 5, it's not a 4, it's a 3, maybe I can ride it out. Here's the problem. Anything over than 40 miles an hour or so sustained, the first responders are not coming out. It's too dangerous. And look, let's qualify that, okay? They still do sometimes. Why? Because they are angels among us, and they come out and they leave their families to rescue yours and mine. But they should not be put in that position, and that's why they want people evacuated. And once again, people have decided to stay. So what are we expecting? Here in Tampa Bay, they were worried about as much as 10 or 12 feet of surge. And remember, that's not just water coming up this far, that's this high. Okay, into the area. Now the estimates are more somewhere between 4, 6, 7 feet. That's still going to be plenty, all right? The bay is about, less than a mile from where we are back over my shoulder. But again, we're tucked up inside. You get to St. Pete and those other areas that are part of that barrier chain on the western coast of Florida, they're going to get hit a lot harder, all right? So let's put up the whip of everybody we have here. This storm is going to start the story of its major effect right now, go through the night, into the morning, and into tomorrow afternoon. It will dissipate, but it will be predicted to stay as a hurricane or close to one all the way across the state. That can have very punishing effects. Now, I want to bring in our first guest. Dusty, do we have the Deputy Director? Jamie Roan is with us right now from the National Hurricane Center. Jamie, can you hear me? Can you see me?
How are you? I got you loud and clear. How are you?
Jamie, thank you very much. So we're the story is about to begin. How so, and what do we see in this first wave of landfall?
You're really seeing this the intense core of a major hurricane move onto land. You're starting to see wind reports coming in with this. We've got a wind report to 96 miles per hour in the Sarasota, Bradenton International Area. You're going to see those types of wind reports expand, more of them in the next couple of hours as the core of the hurricane sort of marches, in and around the Tampa, St. Petersburg area. The other thing you're going to see happen really quickly in the next couple of hours, you're kind of already seeing it, is this inland flood threat, this inland flood risk. In some places in here, we've already got 5 to 8 inches of rain already, and rainfall rates of 2 to 4 inches an hour on top of that. All that heavy rain is just going to spread eastward along the I-4 corridor in the overnight hours, producing locally catastrophic flooding.
One quick thing for you, and I appreciate it. I know how long you have to go and how long you've been going already. From what was anticipated, what are we seeing in terms of the early effects of this hurricane? Is it less damaging than expected? Is it different than expected?
I copy.
Jamie, you got me?
I got you. So repeat the question, please.
So far, is the story of Milton as expected, less, different?
No, unfortunately, it has played out exactly as predicted. You certainly don't want that to be the case. My only hope is that the early and consistent predictions allowed people to be prepared.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Jamie. If you have information you want to get out, we're a buzz away for you, and we'll put out information as needed. Thank you very much for doing the job and being with us. All right. Let's go to people who are waiting out there, seeing the storm effects firsthand, up close and personal, so that you don't have to stick around to see it. We'll show it if you want to see what it's like to be in it right now. Put up the whip of everybody we have around. And who do you want me to go to first? Dusty, there are already 500,000 people without power. That's only going to go up. Some of them are going to be out with power for an extended period. Is that Alex Caprariello I see there? All right.
Yeah, hey, Chris.
All right, and I see Xavier also. Xavier, I'm coming to you in a second. Alex, I see you right now. You're south of me. You're getting more intense energy from the early landfall. Give it to us.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. We're really seeing a lot of toning down when it came to the heavy rain. As you can see, I took off my jacket, and really right now what we're facing is really those strong wind gusts. They come in spurts, and they come really, really strong. They make these palm trees just bend in the wind, and then boats like these here on Marina Jack, you can see the top sail on this little boat here really whipping in the wind. As far as sort of the power outages that you've been mentioning, we've had a close eye on these condos here in the distance, and we've seen what looks to be several transformers blow up in essence. We see the lights go in and out on those condos, but you can see there are still many lights on there, indicating to me that there are people that are here in this mandatory evacuation zone, albeit on some of those higher levels where they won't necessarily feel that storm surge threat, but that are still out here riding out that storm. Over the course of the last day and a half or so, I have spoken to people who are tying down their boats, getting them ready. This is a floating dock here on the marina, so this dock has the capability of actually rising and falling with that storm surge as long as it stays about 12 feet or below. If it goes any higher than that, then even this floating dock would lift up higher than those pylons, and those boats that are tied up would essentially float away. We haven't seen necessarily that same storm surge that had been forecasted, 10 to 15 feet so far. but we do know that it is getting more powerful in terms of the wind gusts, and the rain at this point, Chris, has really slowed down.
All right, so Alex, obviously be safe, because as we both know, storm surge comes a lot faster than average flooding.
Right.
That's what we're entering into, that phase right now. And keep your team safe, and whenever you want to come back on because you've got something to report, get to the control room. I'll come right to you, okay? I'll talk to you soon.
You got it,
Thank you
Chris.
for being with me tonight, my friend. All right, Xavier Walton is also out there. He's had a wetter experience. Now, again, just because you don't see driving rains, we do have them behind us here, but it's that wind and rain effect. Xavier, tell people where you are and what you're witnessing.
All right, Chris, so we just had a huge gust of wind. Sorry, I'm not looking at you. We're in St. Petersburg, Florida, so we're a little bit north of you. The relentless rain and the wind have really been picking up. You can see it behind me, but I'm going to point you over here to this intersection, because that's where we're starting to see things get really ugly, as to see the lights and the poles starting to kind of wave back and forth. I'm going to tell you, this is as bad as we've seen it since we've been out here. Earlier, we did watch some people walking around. Those people are not here anymore. You see some of these signs waving back and forth. We've also noticed power. You see that green hue go out. That means transformers blowing. I've seen at least 4, maybe 5 at this point. And then we're going to go up to the flag. Take a look at this flag whipping in the wind. That flagpole barely hanging on. That flag barely hanging on. Earlier today, we spent our morning in Clearwater. They had tons of debris. They couldn't clean it up soon enough after Hurricane Helene. That was a big concern. A lot of that debris posing big dangers. One of the things, I spoke to a gentleman who said that they didn't get the debris cleaned up soon enough, Chris. Here's what he said. He said, Milton is like Hurricane Helene's big brother, and Milton is coming to wreak havoc. And we haven't seen the worst of it yet, but it's coming.
All right, now, Xavier, sorry for being an old dad, but I'll tell you what. I was standing in a hurricane once, and Al Roker, the legend from NBC News, one minute he was telling us to look at a stop sign, the next minute it went flying by, almost took his head off. So, God forbid, safety first. Keep the team safe. Let me know when you want to check in. I'll be there. Take yourself and take the team. Stay safe. Now, let's go to Brian Entin, senior correspondent. He's out there also monitoring the situation. Brian, where are you, and what is it for you?
Hey, Chris. Yeah, we're on Bayshore Boulevard, which is that iconic road that we dried off the lens. Luis is drying off the lens. We're on Bayshore Boulevard, which is that iconic road along the Tampa Bay. There's no one out here. I want to kind of walk across the street for you. You can see the rain. We've got a building sort of protecting us from the wind, but when you look down that way, you can see the rain just whipping across the boulevard here. This is where the start of Caprariello normally is. If you ever know all the pirate ships in the big event here in Tampa. So that gives you an idea where we are. I just want to walk over real quick to the bay, though, and just see if it's gone up at all since we were last over here about a half an hour ago. We haven't really seen any storm surge, which has been great, because the predictions were this whole area could be underwater. Granted, that could still happen a little later, but oh, this is interesting. Come over here, Luis. This is so interesting. So the water's been sucked out of the bay since the last time I was over here, and I know it's dark, but look at this, Chris. There's no water right here. This was full of water a half an hour ago. So whatever is happening, it has sucked all of the water out of the bay right here, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, so Brian, I mean, I know you know this, but just for the audience, so that is absorbing energy as it's coming to landfall, right? And that's that whole centrifugal force of a hurricane that we all hear about every time we do one of these. That water is going to come back, and it's going to bring a lot of friends with it. So, keep your eye out there about how that comes up over the top. Monitor the situation and let me know. Now, we want to get to the next part of this story that we got to cover, which is people who stayed behind. Some had to, some chose to. It doesn't matter. Now, Dusty, what's the name of the couple that we have? The Keith family, right? Tanya and Dustin? Right. Good. So, Tanya and Dustin, I hope you can hear me. You guys are in Sarasota, just south of us, supposed to get much more intense. That is what is starting right now. You look good. How are you doing at home, and why are you in there?
We're doing great, actually. We're pretty good. I think we're already in the middle of the eye right now. We're not in an evacuation zone. We prepared properly. We've got our windows boarded up. We've got backup generators. We've got food supplies. We've got a radio that we can contact our friends and family, emergency services if we need them. So, so far we're doing good.
Okay, I lost you there for a second, but let me get your husband in here. What was the effect of Helene, and what is your concern about what Milton does as a compounding effect?
Hello?
Yeah, you still got me, you guys? Can you hear me? All right, so listen, connectivity is going to be difficult, all right? And we know that. It's part of the storm. It's not necessarily a sign of distress, but the hurricane is making landfall where they are right now. She was saying, yeah, we're just basically over the eye. No, not yet. And by the way, the eye is actually the calm space. Okay, and then you have that dirty edge that comes after it, and the cycle begins again, and we'll be keeping track of all this. Now, I want to check in with my friend who has taken me through much of what you have to live through in a hurricane, working for FEMA, working for the special task forces that are like the special operators of FEMA here in South Florida. They go all over the country, all over the world to help in disasters, and they've been working overtime in this storm season, specifically with Helene and now Milton. Scott Dean joins us right now. Scott, thank you very much for the job that you and the men and women do, as always. You told me that the teams are starting to move out now. They're different than a lot of other first responders that have to wait in order to mobilize. But what are you anticipating, and what have you seen so far?
The task force is ready to go. They got prepared all day. Our first group of our quick response team is already en route, heading westbound, making its way through the storm so that we can come in from underneath it on the south side of it and come in behind it. Winds will still be significant, but the team is prepared to go in behind it to try to save whoever's left behind that needs assistance.
Now, tomorrow, once this starts to abate, what type of situations are you anticipating, and what does that involve in terms of capabilities and manpower?
Well, we expect, wires down, which becomes a huge hazard for us, trees in the way. So just trying to cut through to get in is going to be strategic. We're going to try to make a quick access so that the bigger part of the team coming in behind us can get in right away behind us and start putting more boots on the ground and starting going house to house and checking on people.
So far, Scott, has this been what was expected, or did those tornadoes throw a curveball into this that created need?
Yeah, tornadoes were probably very unexpected on how many came through Florida today. But I tell you, the worst is still to come. Seeing that bay go out is very concerning because that water is coming back.
All right, Scott, I'll be in constant touch. Supervisor and director now. We've been doing this so long together that you were just another member of the teams when I first met you. Now you're in charge because of your dedication and your commitment, and I respect you and thank you for it. And I promise we are here to tell the story of the relief efforts as well, and nobody does it as well as the men and women under your command. So thank you very much for being with us. We'll be in touch, and thank you. All right, so here we are in Tampa, Florida, watching Hurricane Milton now make landfall. All right, so far it's been sneaky in the middle of the state, and parts that were supposed to get rain but not have to be a point of urgency. They've been seeing tornadoes, and now we're getting more and more reports that the expanded wind field of this hurricane is creating a lot of opportunistic incidents of tornadoes or tornadic activity. We have not seen anywhere we are yet. There are no reports yet. We are tucked up inside Tampa Bay so that we can stay on air and get you to all of the different people who are in much more severe states of suck than I am on this watch, as NewsNation will take you through what's going on with Hurricane Milton making landfall on our watch. The story of this storm is going to be the surge. This is an already compromised area because of Hurricane Helene. The whole West Coast, portions could see storm surge 3, 5, 7 feet or more. Those could be devastating on top of areas that are already compromised. So The evacuation plans were extensive. The calls for it were urgent, and they were constant. People did get out that didn't leave during Helene. And remember, over 200 people died, most in North Carolina, but that was a massive mortality event that we don't want to see repeated. Hopefully people got out. We're told here in Tampa, the shelters are mostly full. There are over 500,000 households already without power. How long? I don't know. Depends on the duration and intensity of this storm. It's just starting to come against landfall. We're feeling it pick up here, but we're very protected where we are. We'll take you to NewsNation's resources that are all along the areas that are going to get hit, and we'll adjust as the storm does as well. That's the job. Thank you for being with NewsNation. We're going to take a break, and we come back. We will take you through what's going on, this Category 3 hurricane, Milton, that is now making landfall in Florida. Stay with us. Thank you for being with us here on NewsNation. Chris Cuomo here. We are now getting landfall from a hurricane named Milton coming onto land as a Category 3. Not really what matters is the number. We pay way too much attention to that. Why? It's about the combination effect of the dynamic of a particular storm. This one has been sneaky. I was just talking with a friend of mine who's like way inland, like St. Lucie. And the outer bands of the storm created tornadoes, took out power, did all kinds of things that we really weren't thinking would be the story. The story is supposed to be just storm surge on the coastline, but we've had hours of other effects of this storm. And now, here it comes. And because of the saturation and the compromised nature of so much of the areas here along this western seaboard, the western coast of the Florida Peninsula, storm surge can be much more devastating. How much storm surge? Every meteorologist I've been listening to today says that the numbers will probably be lower than worst fear. Good. This is the only time in journalism you're happy to be wrong, is when estimates wind up being higher than expected. That said, I also hear some people getting ahead of what we know with this storm because it's just making landfall now. So the story is only beginning to be told, okay? Now, I do want to focus on people who stayed behind. And with social media, people get a lot of traction. And I'm not one of those people who believes in this spite effect of trying to show people get punished for making their choices. I don't believe in that. I believe that we all take care of each other, and we want to see where people are during a storm and how it's going for them. Matthew Heller was all over social media in his kayak during Helene. He once again has decided to brave it out here in the Tampa area, and I want to check in with him. Matthew, can you hear me?
We're starting to see
paradise that is Tampa, Florida. How are you, sir?
All right, good. We were just looking at you in your kayak in your house. How are things right now where you are, and what's that big unicorn dragon over your shoulder?
That's the backup plan here. It is very rainy and very loud here. The water has not, as you guys were saying, the water's rushed out of the bay right now. We really dodged a bullet here so far. Been really, really, really lucky that it went south. I feel terrible for the people of Sarasota, but it's still a little too early to count our blessings. We don't know how that storm surge is going to affect us. The house is dry for the time being. Just 11 days ago, I had almost 5 feet of water in my lower level here. So I tried to make the best of it, and I went on TikTok to share with everyone else to definitely heed the warnings. When they tell you to evacuate, you want to evacuate.
So why did you stay for this one?
I grew up in South Florida. I'm 42 years old. I was down there for Hurricane Andrew in 1992. I've been watching the storm as it unfolds, watching all the predictions and everything. I kind of made a game time decision to hang out for this one. I'm in a concrete block building, a newer construction home with impact windows. I've just kind of been hoping for the best. Miraculously, I even still have power, and there's no water in the house yet.
Good. Question and a comment. Comment first. That water going out of the bay is an energetic effect. That water's coming back. So keep your eyes peeled for how it comes back and how much volume comes along with it. And second, I don't understand. What is that massive unicorn dragon plan exactly? What are you going to hop on top of that thing if the water gets too high?
That's plan B. I'm actually talking to you from the kayak right now, and if stuff gets a little too hairy, I'm going to push that thing out and just kind of cruise down the road.
All right, well, be careful. I don't think that's a FEMA certified evacuation plan that you have there, but we're a phone call away. Let us know how you're doing and just stay in touch, because I want to be able to shake your hand after all of this, okay? Be well,
yes,
be
sir.
safe. Thank
you so much. Appreciate you.
All right. Look, Plan B, being a giant pool float, that's a risky thing to do. Caroline Calloway, okay? She's in Sarasota. Now, there's much more intensity of impact with Milton there. I believe she's on the beach, and she's a big shot influencer on social media I was introduced to today by a much hipper friend of mine. And she's the author of a well-regarded book called The Guide to Life. Caroline, it's good to have you now. Nothing in that book, in The Guide to Life, about not hanging around during a hurricane on the beachfront.
No, I stay in my lane in that book. I don't write anything about storms or how to weather them, but I actually have the craziest thing to tell you. I'm pretty sure I'm in the eye of the hurricane right now. A second ago, it was blasting noise and spooky, eerie winds, and it just went completely silent. I'm pretty sure the eye of it is passing over us right now in downtown Sarasota.
So, first things first, is everything okay where you are? Do you have what you need?
Yes, I stayed to help some of my elderly neighbors in my building. I live in a building in Florida with a lot of old people, and I'm easily the youngest person in the building. And so I'm going to have to go soon just to jump into action. I see my group chat with my building blowing up. So far, everyone's safe. I feel like the worst will start up when the wall hits us again. I don't know if we're in the eye or why it just suddenly went so completely silent.
It's one of two things. It's one of two things, Caroline. It's either time between bands, or it is the eye. It's tough to tell at night, but there'll be, obviously the back end of it, and it's going to be a wetter back end. So please stay in touch. Let us know that you're okay, and I'll check back in with you later, okay?
I will. It's nice to talk to you, and I appreciate you being out here talking to people with the storm. I think you're doing a real service, especially so late at night, and us locals really appreciate it.
Well, it's nice of you to say, I'm doing the job, you're doing a service. Take care of the people who are there with you, and check back whenever you want. It's nice to meet you. I hope to meet you after this. Take care.
Yeah. I'm going to
All right, so Caroline is in Sarasota. We have Alex Caprariello there also. I'll check back with Caroline. Look, at least there are older people there. She's being able to help them also, so there's some benefit to it, but there's big risk. Alex, situation change where you are, same place, Sarasota. Do you believe it's the eye, or has it moved on?
I'm listening to Caroline's interview just now, and I got to agree with her. It just became very eerily quiet. You remember it was, 15 minutes ago I talked to you last. I was on the other side of that marina. We felt those very powerful wind gusts. I was showing you the wind whipping those palm trees. And yeah, as you can see, it's really quite calm right now, eerie in a way. But I came over to this location, Chris, because I wanted to show you some of this storm surge that's coming, cresting over this curb. This has sort of been a benchmark for me all day long as I've been reporting for NewsNation, because earlier today when I was on, say, NewsNation Now at noon Eastern, there was about a foot to a foot and a half where this water was at that level. Now you can see it's coming up and over my boots. And this is what we mean when we start to see the storm surge and this water getting pushed up onto the land, because now you start to see this debris that picks up here. It's not just, limbs of trees, but also, containers of stuff. There's toys. For some reason, there's a beehive here. But this is all the stuff that gets kicked up. And then eventually, if the storm surge continues to push this way, it's going to create more massive flooding. This is just low-lying land that came from all the rainfall that we've gotten here in Sarasota today. But it continues to push forward here, and if we keep watching, and we have to watch out because this looks to be a power line here, if we keep walking, and you can actually see with this light, the storm surge continues to push, and it gets stronger and stronger, continuing to push towards these condos. Right now we are seeing a bit of calm. I am now all of a sudden, now that I say that, feeling a little bit of rain coming down on me. So we're going to see if we have another band that's coming this way. But I definitely did want to show this to you, illustrate to you what the storm surge is. This is not as catastrophic, and hopefully it stays this way, or if it does increase, it's not by that much more. But you are starting to see some of this water getting pushed in and towards the inland area. This is what they were fearing for, these people that lived in these coastal regions, that it could continue to go higher and higher and to the point where it's catastrophic. One last thing I want to show you. You can't really see it, Chris, but over that way is a bridge that leads to the barrier islands, Siesta Key and the like. And those areas, really low-lying, most certainly underwater at this point. Earlier today, we saw law enforcement actually blocking that bridge. At this point, even they have taken off and left. But we do know that that is a most certain mandatory evacuation zone, those barrier islands, which will most certainly see several feet of flooding, if not by this point already. Chris?
All right, Alex, stay safe. Now, as happens, this is a very kinetic situation, right? So we are now getting hit with much more intense winds here. Pop over my left shoulder and show people down what it looks like at the end of the block. I am underneath a very heavy cement, big parking facility. So it's fine for my shot, but over the gusts are absolutely in high storm range, and that's the way this goes. My producer just told me Milton is making landfall right now on Siesta Key. That's what Alex was pointing to us through over that barrier bridge, about less than 50 miles from here. Okay, so there will be increased intensity now as we see, and this is going to be about duration over land and structures that are already compromised from Helene. That's why it was so important to get people out of here. And yes, as long as it's on my watch, we're going to keep checking in with people who decided to stay or who couldn't leave, because we've got to care about each other. But Milton has been a sneaky storm to this point. This tornadic activity in the middle of the state was not anticipated the way that we've been seeing it in those outer bands. What will the storm bring to bear that we weren't ready for, or that we weren't planning on, and where? That's why we do the coverage. We're going to continue for the duration here at NewsNation. I'm going to take a break right now so we can get people where we need them to be. I want to go out, though, into breaks. Dusty, put up full the radar, and let's see where it is for my own edification in the break, so I see if we got to stay or move. I can see it there among other shots. All right, there it is. That's not that helpful because the 3's taking up the whole thing, but it's starting to make up landfall. Again, that big number 3 is the least important data point if you're anywhere on the west coast of Florida right now, all right? The storm surge is just beginning. We'll tell the story together. Stay with us. Chris Cuomo here for NewsNation. Thank you for joining our continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton. I'll give you a little insight into how we do the job in these circumstances. As you can see, it's getting nasty where we are in Tampa Bay, and we are tucked up inside Tampa Bay, okay? The kind of estuary, the river that leads into the main bay in Tampa is like a mile over my left shoulder. But you get out into those barrier islands, and 30, 40 miles south of us, you have major landfall. You're having some eye activity, meaning there's some quiet spots, and then that dirty back end that is particularly wet with Milton is going to come. But I want to get this map up that I'm seeing from AccuWeather of all of the tornadic activity. That was something that I had not read into as anticipated, let alone in the middle and southern part of the state. Remember, this was about the western coast of this peninsula. That was what we were worried about, and the story was supposed to be storm surge. Now, I believe that from the reporting I'm seeing, it still will be. That story is just starting to be told. Milton is going to be an overnight affair, especially because of the saturation point. The amount of rain has been relatively light until we get into the back edge of this storm, and the land can't absorb anymore, and you don't have high tide until at least 2 a.m. local time. All right? So the tide's coming up anyway. It's got the saturation point of the water, and now you're getting the wind drive that we're definitely getting tropical storm level gusts here in Tampa. What's happening everywhere else, that's going to become the story. Now, more exposed in Tampa is where Brian Entin is, braving the suck. And I want to go to him right now. Brian, you got me.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, I got you. We've moved a little bit farther to the south here along Bayshore Boulevard. I want to show you this The winds actually died down for a second, so it's nice. But you can see this area was flooded and the water moved out. You can see, though, this storm drain just shows you how you mentioned earlier how saturated the ground is. It can't absorb any more water. The storm drains, there's water coming up. But I want to show you, we mentioned last time we saw you, Chris, how the water has been sucked out of the bay, which is insane because like 45 minutes ago, the bay was full of water. And we found a little place we can walk down, and we're not going to, just watch your step, Luis, because it's dark. We're not going to stay down here long because I don't know when the water's going to come back. And we won't go down any farther than this. But this gives you an idea, Chris, that all the water's gone. I mean, look at this. It's like this is Tampa Bay. Like this is normally full of water, and now you can see the bottom. So yeah, when the water comes back, we don't know. Is there going to be a surge? We don't know, but it's going to be interesting here in the next couple of hours.
I'll tell you something, Brian. There is no doubt that water is coming back. And the question is what level of vengeance it returns with, right? Because, as everybody learns, everybody becomes an instant expert with hurricanes. The water is getting sucked out because of that centrifugal energy of the storm. And it is going to bring it back in as it comes whipping around on that back edge of the storm. And then you'll tell us that part of the story when we see it. All right, now, I want to talk about one of the ancillary events. Brian, stay safe. You and Luis, take care of yourselves there, all right? An ancillary story here is what happens when the storm passes, okay? Helene beat this place up. Everybody's been in overdrive. We're barely scratching the surface of the stories in North Carolina. People have been hard hit. You're seeing during an election year people playing stupid poison politics with BS about those people being forgotten and money being taken and given to migrants and all these other politically unpopular people. And it's all BS. And they have enough to deal with already. Now, one of the issues is going to be basic needs after Milton, like gas. And I want to bring in the guy from Gas Buddy, Patrick DeHar. Is he ready?
Yeah, you got me.
DeHaan? Patrick DeHaan? Good. That's what you get for having one of those complicated names. If you had a simple name like Cuomo, everybody would get it right. No, I'm just messing with you. Tell us, we're having a hard time finding gas on our way into Tampa this morning. We found some, but most of the places were out. I heard a figure that it was more than half the places were out of gas. What is going on with that, and what do you foresee? Whoa.
Yeah, Chris, at least for now, we're at a point where 24.6% of stations in Florida, so almost a quarter of gas stations in Florida don't have gasoline. Now, in your neck of the woods there in Tampa, it's actually closer to 2/3. About 63% of stations don't have gasoline right now. And it does vary. Some areas like Miami are not hard hit at all, but you look at Sarasota, 44% of stations without fuel. So this certainly could be a problem after the storm clears the area.
Okay, and when you say a problem when the storm clears the area, historically, what does that mean in terms of timetable until people are able to come back and have their needs met?
Well, it could take anywhere from 5 days to as long as 2 or 3 weeks. Now, a lot of it's going to be contingent on the Port of Tampa and Port Manatee. Potentially, there could be damage, and the Coast Guard is going to have to do assessments to see if those ports can accept shipments from barges from Texas and Louisiana refineries that are going to be sending gasoline in there. So this is not just going to be necessarily an easy reopening. It's not like these outages are going to just magically solve themselves. There are still a lot of complications from this storm, and it really is contingent on the level of damage that you see in Tampa. Keep in mind that much of Western Florida's gasoline comes through Port Tampa, and so this is going to affect really the entire west side of the state.
Patrick, let me ask you something while I have you, Mr. DeHaan, but I want you, brother, to shoot over my left shoulder. We're getting hit with some much more intense wind surges here, so I want to just show people how the situation is changing in real time. Patrick, one of the, I believe, lines of misinformation is, there's no gas because we're not drilling enough. You are an industry analyst. You understand the world market effects. What is the reality about why you have supply shortages, why gas prices haven't come down the way we wanted? What is the dynamic at play here?
Well, it's a lot about economics, supply and demand. And the last couple of years, we've gone from a pandemic that shut down the U.S. economy and saw gasoline demand plummet overnight to a massive surge in demand that happened as Russia was attacking Ukraine. And so that caused the price of oil to skyrocket. Now, a couple of years into this, we've seen a little bit of normalization happening. The U.S. is still producing record levels of crude oil. That has increased after the pandemic, which saw a massive drop in oil production. But there's a lot of political misinformation, like you've said. But the point is the U.S. is still the world's largest energy producer, and that's part of the reason why gas prices have gotten closer to what many Americans consider normal. In fact, Florida's average prices right now, just $3.20 a gallon. Prices have actually dropped in the last week.
All right. Patrick DeHaan, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Sorry I screwed up your name. You got to forgive me because I'm in storm mode, so I'm not hearing what's coming through the control room as well as I need to. But I appreciate you giving people the information that they need, and they can check you out on social media. Gas Buddy will take you to this fine young man. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks,
all right, I'm going to take you to break. Look, this is what we expected. Okay, landfall was south of us. Now we're starting to get the more thick and wet bands, and you may hear some weird sirens and things here. This is what the wind does. As it starts hitting cars, alarms are going to go off, alarms in buildings are going to go off, and as the surge continues, you're going to start hearing water dog alarms, which is where a lot of these places have an alarm system for alerts on water, so you'll start to get more dynamic kind of atmospherics as we go around different places. We're very safe where we are, at least for now, and everybody's pretty mobile and able to move. But these are much more intense gusts. I'm definitely on the right side of the vehicle we have set up right now. My producer, not so lucky. Let's take a break so we can reorient a little bit, and we will check in with the areas that are getting hit right now. And what will Milton bring to bear in terms of storm surge? That is going to be the story of this hurricane. We are nowhere near the end. This is going to go all through the night, long beyond our watch, but it's certainly beginning with our watch here on NewsNation. So please stay with us.
Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants.
All right, look, we're in the middle of a hurricane here, right? But you got to call the game out where it exists, okay? First of all, Kamala Harris isn't in charge of anything. She's VP. You ever hear Donald Trump tell you that Mike Pence was in charge of anything other than certifying the election? Even that was mostly ceremonial. So this isn't about Kamala Harris, and it shouldn't even be about any of these politics. But let me just tell you as a matter of fact, okay? Nobody has taken any money that is for disaster relief and gave it to migrants. And if you want to complain about the apportionment of money, okay, point the finger at Congress. They're the ones who do it. And as much as some people would love to have a president have plenary authority to do whatever they want, a president can't just take what Congress does and then move money around any way they see fit. And by all reports, the problem that we're going to have with the recovery here is the scale and the depth of the damage, not a lack of resources. And if they need more, then that's on Congress to give us more. So my take is this is ugly politics with people who've already been victimized, and it's the wrong time, even during an election. But I have a better mind for you who studies this and has concerns about the politics of emergency management on both sides. Bill O'Reilly. Bill, thank you for joining us. I'm happy that you're not down here with me. How do you see this situation?
First of all, I want a shirt like that when you come back to New York. This is very intense on a political level, and there are three factors to it. So the Republicans are going to try to blame Biden for whatever happens, and by extension, Kamala Harris. That's what they're going to try to do. The truth is, really on both sides, the truth doesn't really matter anymore with the election 3.5 weeks away. So don't expect any truth-telling from anybody. But it's fascinating on this level. So today, the Biden White House announced that no longer will Joe Biden be in charge of the hurricane relief. Now it's Kamala Harris. who's going to call the shots. And we have some tape on that. Go.
I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Harris, if that's okay with all of you. Thank you. Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Liz, thank you for the work that you have been doing. As the President said, we've been working around the clock to prepare for Hurricane Milton and to ensure that people are safe.
Okay, so that's pretty unusual that a sitting president goes, I don't want to have anything to do with it. We're going to put the candidate, my vice president, in charge. Blatantly political. Okay, it happened. Second thing is that, yes, the Republicans and Donald Trump are trying to use a storm for political advantage, but so is Kamala Harris. So we have two sound bites butted back to back where Harris accuses Florida Governor DeSantis of not taking her phone call and pretty much ignoring the tragedy to come. And then we have Biden 1 day later contradicting Kamala Harris. Roll that.
People are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put the people first.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday, and I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it.
Now, how embarrassing is that? I mean, so Americans
two things are true. They're both true. Biden said it again today, Bill. Biden said, listen, I've talked to DeSantis. He thanked me. That's important. And the guy won't talk to Harris because he doesn't want to, because there's there's political damage for him. He remembers what happened with Governor Chris Christie embracing President Obama, and he doesn't want that shame brought on him. Whoa, shame in quotes.
Well, let me put on the record, though. Let me put on the record that DeSantis said he never got a call from Kamala Harris. That's what his people say. But the wider, bigger picture is all Americans should understand that this is pathetic. It's just pathetic. But those seeking power on both sides will do pretty much anything to win. And that is where we are.
Fair statement. Appreciate the analysis. I'll bring you a T-shirt. Thank you very much. Not this one, though. I know you want this one, Bill. You can't have it. This one's getting raffled off. All right, now I want to check back in here with... Yes, you would. You would take it. You would take it. You would take it. All right, so Ryan Bass, I want to get back to the urgency here of Hurricane Milton, okay? Look, politics is suffusing everything, especially with an election coming, but there's still realities we got to deal with. And the hands